Breakfast.
Today I announce the changes to my Cabinet and Ministry that I will recommend to Her Excellency the Governor-General. I have put together the strongest possible team to do what the nation needs to make us the nation we want to be in the future, a stronger and fairer country. First, Bob Carr will join the Senate and will take on the role of Minister of Foreign Affairs.
The unmistakable voice of Julia Gillard there, opening today's session of State of It with Salwa Manning from livenews.co.nz. Salwa, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Glenn.
Yes, the announcement a week ago or so of Mr Carr as the Foreign Affairs Minister for Australia, of course, after Rudd and Gillard had that very public spat. What does it mean, though?
Yeah, there's much controversy that is centred around the appointment of Bob Carr. Basically, how it came about, he has not been elected into the federal House at all. So what happens there is when an Australian senator resigns, his party, or his or her party, can appoint a replacement without holding a by-election. And that's exactly what happened in the case of Bob Carr. So what we saw were three events that have occurred immediately prior to Bob Carr's appointment. And the first was Mark Arbib. He is a Gillard loyalist and a senator in the New South Wales Senate. Now, he resigned. Then we saw Bob Carr sworn in. And then we saw Julia Gillard, the Prime Minister, appointing Bob Carr to the federal cabinet and appointing him most significantly as Foreign Minister, Glenn.
Okay. Now, so the fact that that there is this controversy there at all. I mean, are people up in arms about this in Australia? Is there any talk about it?
Well, yes, there's a lot of talk, and yeah, there are some people that are up in arms, but others are saying, hang on a minute, this is a good thing for the Australian way. So let's have a look at those things. First off, the great thing as far as the political manoeuvrings on this was that no one anticipated or predicted that Julia Gillard would appoint someone like Bob Carr. Nobody saw events that would lead up to expect that one of Labor's senators would be resigning anywhere in the Senates, in the state Senates. So that came as a surprise, and that in political terms is seen, particularly in the Australian pundit circles at the moment, has a real strength of Julia Gillard to pull something out of the hat without Tony Abbott, her arch rival, the leader of the National Liberal Coalition, from having any idea of what was going on. So to have the opposition at this stage, while they're chomping at the bit to get into government, so close or above the Labor Party in the polls, is a bit seen as a bit of a coup. Then there are those who are saying, well, this is this classic Julia Gillard, this behind-the-scenes manipulation of the political apparatus, that here she is, has one of her loyal senators resign. It's clearly orchestrated, clearly a strategic move. She appoints Bob Carr. He's sworn into the Senate in New South Wales, and then bang, he's Foreign Minister of Australia. And they say that is something that really Julia Gillard should have put out there to the public. That's the kind of feeling. And then there are those who are saying, well, let's look at Bob Carr. This guy, he was the Labor Party. He was the Labor Party hero in New South Wales for 10 years as Premier there, from 1995 through to 2005. Now, Bob Carr there, he was seen to be a part of the Labor Party's right-leaning faction, so very much a centrist. Some of the things in that 10-year period that he established in New South Wales, millions of people benefit from today, and they are mainly significantly 100 parks he set up, conservation parks all around the outer areas of Sydney, but also preserving stuff inside. So New South Wales has really got Bob Carr's interest in conservation, nature conservation as they term it over there. The other thing is the PPPs, the public-private partnerships. Now, in some degrees, that really kicked when he kicked those off, it got Sydney itself up and running into a modern city. And, those who visit Sydney would see the benefits of that. In a sense of seeing, the tunnels with the roading, the new buildings, the facility, the infrastructure, Darling Harbour complex, etc., where state investment and public and private enterprise investment came through to deliver for the people there.
So all that sounds very very positive. But as Foreign Affairs Minister, what has he stated are his priorities?
Well, his priorities are, and he identified this right at the front end. The first day he was made Minister of Foreign Affairs, he said, Asia Pacific is first on my beat. That's his priority. He got briefings immediately on his first day on Fiji and Papua New Guinea that both of those Melanesian states are under stress, obviously, at the moment. And there's a lot of stuff going on up in Papua New Guinea that the Australians are starting to take a front foot on. So he's got a big job there. There's a bit of a clip, actually, of Bob Carr speaking at a stand-up immediately after his appointment.
And also, as he says, they're cooperating with New Zealand. We got a special mention.
Yes. Yeah, we did, and he's putting, he's doing what he says he's going to do. He's going to be in New Zealand this weekend, meeting with officials over here, and one would expect Murray McCully, if the Prime Minister can find where Murray McCully is, our Foreign Minister, to meet with him. So Bob Carr has clearly stamped some defining differences between him and Kevin Rudd. Kevin Rudd has been criticised. And in some ways, Julia Gillard could share this kind of criticism in a way, but Kevin Rudd is seen as Foreign Minister of having ignored much of the Pacific, ignored Australia's regional patch, Australia's regional responsibilities, and they're naming and pointing to the instability up in Papua New Guinea, and certainly the estrangement that has lingered on for years now between Australia and Fiji. Now, Kevin Rudd did not address any progress in those two areas, and he's been criticised for that. Julia Gillard, in my view, Glenn, can take a certain amount of that criticism and absorb that too. But under Bob Carr, she's got a chance of establishing a new way for Australia. And really, I suppose if you look at Bob Carr, his interests in foreign affairs go back, to when he was a student, and then he was a journalist for a time, worked for prestigious magazines in Sydney. He has a track record, but also he is seen to be one who will do the job and to do what he says he will do. He fits in with Julia Gillard's faction. He puts new energy in there. He's got a significant degree of gravitas attached to him that the Julia Gillard-led government actually needs at this time politically. And one can expect that he will tackle that really difficult foreign affairs dilemma, if you like, that both New Zealand and Australia have found themselves in, and that is basically the spam in between two thick slices of bread. Yeah. On one side you've got China, and on the other side you've got the United States. And there's a little bit of a clip here, if you've got time, for Obama's address back in 2011 to the Australian Parliament, where he touches on the United States' approach to Asia Pacific at this time.
So here's what this region must know. As we end today's wars, I have directed my national security team to make our presence and mission in the Asia Pacific a top priority. As a result, reductions in U.S. defense spending will not, I repeat, will not come at the expense of the Asia Pacific.
He's quite clearly stating, America's intentions down in this part of the world, and as you say, meanwhile, China on the other side and Australia and New Zealand stuck in the middle.
Yeah, no, both these powers are moving to gain strategic geopolitical hold right across our region. We are wedded, as Australia is, to the huge economic machine of China. We're dependent on it. We can see China's influence right across the Asia-Pacific span and that arc of instability, as it's referred to sometimes. On the other side, we can see what President Obama has spoken about there, that the United States has followed through with its budget and its interest in the Asia-Pacific region and has put its military hardware into our patch. Now, in between that, somewhere, both New Zealand and Australia have got to find some sort of comfortable ground, or they're going to be swallowed up in some sort of unholy three-way alliance, that is going to be tense with the strains of two powers juxtapositioning themselves on the globe. Bob Carr, it's a big task. He will be measured on two things, that Asia-Pacific engagement that we're talking about, in Melanesia in particular, and on this, how he navigates Australia through. And in some ways, while New Zealand's been devolving its foreign affairs apparatus, and Murray McCully as Minister of Foreign Affairs appears to be less effective than what we would expect as a nation. It may be that a lot of our hope is put on to the likes of Bob Carr to navigate a solution to some of these tensions that exist at this time.
Maybe Bob Carr can pop over and give Murray a few tutorials, perhaps.
Maybe a few emails that he can point Murray in the right way and replace John Hayes, the National Party MP.
As long as those emails are secure. So, Manning, thanks very much for that. Livenews.co.nz is where you can head to find this as a video once more as well.